It has new evidence of flowing water on the surface of Mars. And I'll bring a picture up for you. You'll look at it. Now, the dark streaks in this image are believed to be liquid and extremely salty water. Researchers have known for years that Mars has frozen water at its poles, but this finding, it's a game changer. Now, water raises hope that the cold, dry, so-called red planet may sustain life. Now, Tom Kurz is an astronomer at the Royal Observatory Greenwich. He joins me now live from London. Tom, good to see you. The big question here, can this water sustain life on Mars?
It's a really interesting question, and this finding is going to get astrobiologists really starting to think about what kind of environments there are on Mars, what sort of potentially habitable environments there might be. I think the prevailing view is that actually this extremely salty, mineral-rich water is not the best place to be looking for life on Mars. What this finding really helps us to understand is that water is an active volatile on Mars. Mars does have a water cycle. It's not a dead world. We might think of it perhaps as a dying world, but it's not completely dried up. And water has been found over a wide number of regions on the surface of Mars. I think many astrobiologists suspect that actually, if we're going to want to find life on Mars today, we need to be looking probably for fresh water, which is suspected to exist even in liquid form at wider latitudes nearer the poles of Mars.
Okay, so it's too early to reach any conclusion just yet if this water finding is in fact sustaining life on Mars. But you mentioned it's very salty water. So could it be desalinated? Could this Martian water sustain human visitors to Mars?
This is certainly this is probably the most exciting reason that this finding has been talked about so much. I think the ability to actually harvest water on Mars will be extremely important for human visitors. And it's not actually just the molecular water that we can get, but the minerals in the water could be useful as well. These chlorate and perchlorate salts that have been found keeping the water stable on Mars could also be harvested and could even be used, as NASA scientists have suggested, to build things like solid rocket boosters. So actually building your trip home while you're on the surface is a possibility that we can now start to think about.
Yeah, we need to find out more about these streaks of water, this evidence that we found via satellite. Can NASA send the Mars rovers there to investigate the water?
Well, at the present time, I think NASA are considering trying to get one of their most active rovers, which is the Curiosity on Mars Science Laboratory, potentially closer to one of these sites. There is a problem with investigating these sites, even with a future mission, and that is that there's a problem with potential contamination. At the moment, NASA deliberately, and other space agencies deliberately propose landing sites on Mars where any bacteria that make their way over there on the spacecraft, any microbes, will not find an environment that they can move into. When human beings visit Mars, we are inevitably going to contaminate Mars, but if we want to make a signal of native life on Mars, if we want to find that signal, we need to make sure that we don't contaminate the place. Sending a spacecraft which may still have microbes from Earth on it to a place where those microbes could be able to thrive has the potential to spoil any chance we have of finding native life by essentially sending terrestrial life there first and then rediscovering that, which wouldn't be very fruitful for us.
Yeah, we don't want to contaminate the scene, but more needs to be investigated to find out if there's a fresher source of water, to find out where the water is coming from on Mars. Will there be more research? Could there be a new mission to Mars?
There will be many more missions to Mars, undoubtedly. The 2020 mission is very exciting. That's a rover which NASA will be sending to Mars in the coming years based on the platform that they've already tested out there. That rover will be testing all sorts of things which could ultimately really help human exploration of Mars. For example, that rover will be taking oxygen out of the atmosphere to make a breathable oxygen for potential human visitors, and also investigating what the soil is like on Mars and how likely it is we can get the water out of that soil. But the great thing about this finding is that these hydrated salts, which have been confirmed from space, which is quite remarkable when you think about it, give water much more stability on the surface of Mars. So what was previously thought to be difficult, if not impossible, to have water effectively in the soil on Mars has now become a reality, and that is really exciting.
Yeah, this is an incredible discovery. We'll leave it at that. Tom Kurz, astronomer, joining me live from London. Thank you so much for walking us through this finding. New evidence of flowing water on the surface of Mars. And I'll bring a picture up for you. You'll look at it. Now, the dark streaks in this image are believed to be liquid and extremely salty water. Researchers have known for years that Mars has frozen water at its poles, but this finding, it's a game changer. Now, water raises hope that the cold, dry, so-called red planet may sustain life. Now, Tom Kurz is an astronomer at the Royal Observatory Greenwich. He joins me now live from London. Tom, good to see you. The big question here, can this water sustain life on Mars?